Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into what it takes to unlock true English fluency, going beyond just the basics.
Exactly. Aiming for that real confidence, that clarity. Like you said, becoming a kind of transatlantic word wizard.
I like that.
Yeah, so in this deep dive, our mission is basically to give you, our listener, a bit of a shortcut. We've dug through a whole stack of sources, articles, research, and we're pulling out the most practical strategies, the most, fascinating insights.
Decoding the DNA of fluency, as you put it before.
That's the idea.
Okay, so where do we start? The absolute foundations.
Right, the building blocks. Simple sentences, those essential phrases, our sources are clear. These aren't just, beginner stuff. They're the absolute bedrock for feeling confident.
It's interesting how fundamental they are.
It really is. Fluency isn't about, reciting complex grammar perfectly. It's about connection, expressing yourself without getting stuck.
So, meeting someone new, what's a go-to phrase?
Well, a simple, "Hi, name, nice to meet you," works wonders. And here's a neat little tip we found. Actually repeating their name.
Oh, right.
Yeah, like, "Nice to meet you, Sarah." It helps you remember, sure, but it also signals you're actually listening, you're engaged. It's like a subtle compliment.
That's a great tip. A psychological handshake, almost.
Exactly.
And wrapping up, ending the chat.
Keep it friendly, keep it simple. See you later, or it was great catching up. Take care. Maybe good night if it's evening. Easy stuff you can use every day.
Okay. And what if you're still learning and, you need someone to slow down a bit or repeat something?
Oh, definitely don't be afraid to ask. Politely, of course. "I'm still learning English, so could you please speak slowly?" Or just, "Could you please say that again?" Most people are really understanding. They appreciate the effort. It actually shows confidence, not weakness.
Right. Being clear about what you need as a learner. Okay, let's talk small talk. Sometimes it gets a bad rap, but our sources call it the bridge between strangers.
It absolutely is. It's not just filling silence, It's this low-stakes way to build rapport, build a little trust, creates a comfortable space.
So what kind of topics work best?
Oh, the usual suspects are great. Weather, weekend plans, maybe movies or TV shows. Seen anything good lately? Or food? What's your favorite kind of food? Simple questions, but they're really invitations to connect.
It's about the connection, not just the words. I like that framing. And you mentioned some Swiss Army knife phrases.
Yeah, these are your essentials, your go-tos. "Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Excuse me." And "I'm sorry."
Right.
With "I'm sorry," though, context is everything. It can be a tiny, "Oops, bumped into you, sorry," or a much more serious apology. The situation really dictates the weight.
Got it. That gives us a solid base. Now let's move to the engine of English verbs. Our sources call them a secret code.
They really are. They shape how we think, how we communicate. Even the really common ones, the heavy hitters like be, have, do, say, go, they've got layers.
How so?
Well, take be, "I am happy." That's a state. "I am a teacher." That's identity. Same verb, different function. Or have, "I have an idea" is possession, but "I have to go now" is obligation.
Huh. Yeah. You don't always think about those nuances.
Exactly. That's where the richness is.
And what about those verbs that team up with prepositions, phrasal verbs? They can be tricky.
Oh, phrasal verbs. Yeah, they trip people up. Think of it like Legos. The verb is one brick, the preposition is another. Snap them together and you get something totally new.
Like take off?
Right. You take off your coat, that's removal. But a plane takes off, that's departure. Same verb, take. But the off changes everything. The key isn't memorizing every single one. It's spotting the pattern, how that little extra word shifts the meaning.
That Lego idea makes it less intimidating. Learning the principle, not just the examples. Okay, what about verbs describing our thoughts and feelings? Like think, know, feel.
The inner world verbs. These are crucial for expressing beliefs, understanding, emotions. Think about know versus believe. In fact, I know Paris is in France. But you believe in an idea, maybe without concrete proof. I believe honesty is important. It lets you talk about different kinds of certainty, different levels of thought.
It's like getting more precise tools for expressing what's going on inside. And verbs like give, take, put, leave.
Fundamental for interaction. Physically, you give a gift, you take a book.
Yeah.
But they work metaphorically too, right? You give advice, you take responsibility. Understanding both uses is really key for sounding natural.
And some verbs are just incredibly versatile, like play.
Exactly. The kids are playing outside. That's general fun. She plays the piano. That's a specific skill. Same word, totally different context and meaning.
Context is king then. What about synonyms that seem close, like start and begin? Any real difference?
Often interchangeable, yeah. But sometimes start feels a bit more sudden, maybe more forceful. You start a race or start an engine.
Yeah.
Begin often feels a little softer, maybe for a new project or a book.
Subtle.
It is. But those little nuances add precision.
Definitely. This is already showing how much depth there is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears. Nuances, pitfalls. Starting with American versus British English. We're going beyond chips and fries, right?
Oh, way beyond it. It's fascinating, actually. Look at spelling. Color versus color, airized versus eerie. It's not random. Noah Webster, back in the 18th century, deliberately wanted to simplify American spelling. There's history there.
That explains a lot. And vocabulary must be a big one.
For sure. Is it a truck or a lorry? Hood or bonnet on a car? Loads of examples.
Yeah.
And it gets even more complex because there are regional variations within each country, too.
Right. It's not just two monolithic blocks. What about grammar differences?
Yeah, there's some interesting ones. Collective nouns, for instance. In British English, you might hear, the team are playing well, treating them as individuals. In American English, it's almost always, the team is playing well, treating it as a single unit.
That's a subtle but definite difference. And the present perfect tense, that's the have-done structure, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Used for past actions with present relevance. Brits tend to use it a bit more often, especially for recent news, like, I've lost my keys. An American might be more likely to say, I lost my keys.
So same meaning, slightly different preference.
Pretty much. Both are correct. Just a stylistic tendency.
And pronunciation. That's usually the most obvious difference.
Yeah, the R sound is a big one. Americans usually pronounce the R at the end of words like car. Many British accents don't. They're non-rhotic. And vowels. Think schedule versus schedule. Big differences there.
So with all this variation, is one way right
Yep.
or better?
That's a really common question. But no. Neither is better or more correct. They just evolve differently, like siblings. Both are perfectly valid, globally understood Englishes. The main thing is awareness and aiming for consistency, especially if you're writing formally.
Stick to one lane for clarity.
Exactly.
And it's not just US versus UK, right? The English is global.
Absolutely. Australian, Canadian, Indian English. So many varieties, each with its own unique vocabulary, rhythm, quirks. It's a truly global language.
It really is vast. So if someone wants to work on a specific accent, any tips?
Immersion is key. Watch movies, listen to music from that region. But don't just listen passively. Actively try to imitate the rhythm, the intonation, those specific sounds. Record yourself. It's like learning an instrument by ear.
Learning the music of the language, not just the notes. Okay, let's tackle common mistakes. Our sources frame them nicely as opportunities for improvement.
That's the right attitude. They're feedback, not failures. A classic grammar one is less versus fewer.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, less for things you can't count easily, like less water, less traffic. Fewer for things you can count. Fewer apples, fewer cars.
Countable versus uncountable, always a fun one. What about pronouns like me and I?
Simple trick. Take the other person out of the sentence. Would you say, me went to the shop? No, right. You'd say, I went.
Right.
So it stays, John and I went to the shop. And subject-verb agreement, too. The dog barks, but the dogs bark. Little things, big impact.
Definitely. Word choice can be tricky, too. Effect and effect. Always get tangled.
They're notorious. Okay, affect is usually the verb, the action. The rain affected our plans. Effect is usually the noun, the result. The rain had a negative effect.
Verb versus noun.
Okay.
And lay versus lie.
Another classic pair. Lay needs an object. You lay something down, like lay the book on the table. Lie doesn't take an object.
Yeah.
You just lie down yourself. I need to lie down.
Got it. Lay something, lie yourself. What about bring and take?
Think direction. Bring is movement towards here or towards the speaker. Bring me that file. Take is movement away from here. Take this package to the post office. Bring it here. Take it there.
And here, take there. Simple. Okay. Idioms. They add flavor, but oh boy.
Yeah. They can be confusing. A common mix-up is couldn't care less. It means zero interest. But people often say, I could care less, which grammatically means they do care, at least a little.
Right. Drives me crazy.
Me too. And literally, it should mean actually happened. I literally froze. Should mean you were encased in ice, not just very cold or scared. Gets used for emphasis, but technically it's often wrong.
So use idioms carefully. Know what they actually mean. Pronunciation challenges. Beyond accents.
Yeah, certain sounds are just tough for many learners. The sounds think. This consonant clusters like lulled in world or erd in hard. And English vowels are, well, they're wild. Lots of variation.
So how do you tackle those sounds specifically?
Active listening is step one. Really focus. Then repeat aloud. Record yourself. It sounds cringy, but it's so useful for hearing what you actually sound like. And pay attention not just to sounds, but to intonation, the rise and fall, and word stress. Where do native speakers put the emphasis?
The musicality again. It's not just the words. What about social situations, the unwritten rules?
Hugely important for fluency. It's about context. Interrupting, for example, is generally a no-no in most English-speaking contexts. You need to wait for a pause.
That conversational turn-taking.
Exactly. And matching formality. You wouldn't use super casual slang in a formal job interview, right? Our sources called it wearing a tuxedo to a barbecue.
Yeah, good analogy.
So observe native speakers. How do they act in different situations? What kind of language do they use? Pay attention to tone, body language.
Be a bit of a social detective.
Kind of. And if you're unsure, especially in a new situation, maybe lean slightly more formal. It's usually safer. Respect and sensitivity are always key.
Wise advice. Okay, let's move into strategic learning. Thematic vocabulary. Why is learning words and themes so good?
It taps into how our brains naturally work. We learn by making connections, not by memorizing random lists. Grouping words by theme like travel, food, technology builds a network. It's like creating a mental map, making the words easier to remember and use because they're linked.
So instead of just car, tree, book, it's airport, boarding pass, gate, under, travel.
Exactly. It gives the words context and helps you see how they relate to each other.
Makes sense. How do you actually do it?
First, pick themes you actually care about. Movies, sports, cooking, whatever excites you. That intrinsic motivation makes a huge difference.
So follow your interests.
Definitely. Then, break big themes down. Cooking could become ingredients, methods like baking or frying, utensils, types of cuisine.
Makes it manageable.
Okay, broken down.
Then what?
Find real-world materials. Don't just stick to textbooks. Read articles, watch videos, listen to podcasts about your chosen themes in English. Immerse yourself.
So if I like hiking, read hiking blogs in English.
Perfect example. You're learning the language while engaging with something you enjoy. And then, crucially, you need to use the words. Active practice.
Speak and write with them.
Yes. Write a review of that movie, describe the hiking trail, explain a recipe. That's how you make the vocabulary truly yours.
Any other techniques for thematic learning?
Visualization is powerful. Use flashcards with pictures, not just words. Draw mind maps. Sketch little scenes and label them. Connect the word to an image.
Makes it stick better.
For sure. And learn in small chunks. Aim for maybe 5-10 related words per session, not 50. Quality over quantity. And repeat, repeat, repeat. Encounter those words in different ways over time.
Great practical tips. But learning is long haul. How do you stay motivated? Our sources call it the fuel for fluency.
It really is the engine. SMART goals are a great tool. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. Don't just say, I want to be fluent. Say, I will learn 5 new phrasal verbs about travel this week. Concrete steps.
Makes it feel less overwhelming. And tracking progress.
So important for morale. Record yourself speaking now, then again in a few months. Hearing the improvement is incredibly motivating. And celebrate the small wins. Understood a podcast episode. Used a new word correctly. Acknowledge it.
Those little victories add up. What about making it fun?
Absolutely essential. Tie it to your hobbies. Watch English TV shows, subtitles on at first, maybe off later. Listen to English music. Look up the lyrics. Play word games. If it feels like play, not just study, you'll stick with it longer.
Integrate it into your leisure time and connecting with other people.
Hugely beneficial. Find a language exchange partner. Join online forums or local groups. Practice speaking. Get support. Share frustrations. It makes the journey less lonely.
Having that community helps. But what about the days when motivation just vanishes?
Happens to everyone. That's when you need to remember your why. Why did you start? Career, travel, connecting with family, enjoying films. Keep that reason front and center. Write it down. It's your anchor.
Remind yourself of the bigger goal. And mistakes, we keep coming back to them.
Because they're crucial. Embrace them. See them as data points showing where you need to focus. Ask for feedback. Use tools like grammar checkers. Every error corrected is progress.
Technology can really help there, can it?
Oh, immensely.
Yeah.
Apps like Duolingo, Babbel, Memrise make practice feel like a game. Grammarly for writing. Online courses on platforms like Coursera. So many resources available now.
It's incredible. What about real-world immersion, even if you can't travel?
You can create it. Change your phone language to English. Read English news sites. Listen to English radio online. And here's a big one. Try to think in English.
Thinking in English, how does that work?
Start small. Narrate your day internally. Okay, now I'm making coffee, I need milk. Describe things you see. Have little mental conversations. It weaves English into your thought process, making it more automatic over time.
That's a fascinating exercise. And rewarding yourself.
Yes. Acknowledge your effort. Finished a tough chapter. Reach a small goal. Treat yourself. A nice coffee, watch a movie, whatever relaxes you, and take breaks. Avoid burnout. It's a marathon, remember?
Absolutely. What if you start comparing yourself to others, feeling like you're not learning fast enough?
The comparison trap. It's so easy to fall into. But honestly, everyone learns at their own pace. Focus on your journey, your progress. Every fluent speaker started exactly where you are now. Be kind to yourself.
That's a really important reminder. And vision boards. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's about making your goals visual. Cut out pictures, write quotes that represent why you're learning English or what you want to achieve. Put it somewhere visible. It's a daily, tangible reminder of your motivation.
I like that. Visual motivation. And teaching what you learn?
Sounds weird, but it works. Trying to explain a grammar point or a new word to someone else forces you to understand it deeply. It solidifies the knowledge in your own mind. Plus, you might help someone else.
True. It cements your own understanding. Finally, active listening.
Yeah, this isn't just having English audio on in the background. It's focused listening. Pay attention to pronunciation, intonation, how words link together. Pause, rewind, try to catch keywords. It turns listening from passive intake into active learning.
This has been such a rich deep dive. We've covered the building blocks, the quirks like AME versus BRE, common pitfalls, and these really powerful learning strategies.
It's a lot, but hopefully really useful. And the key takeaway really is that fluency isn't about being perfect. It's about communicating clearly, connecting with people, expressing who you are. It's a journey.
Absolutely. Mistakes are part of it. Keep practicing. Keep exploring. So the final thought for you, our listener, as you take these ideas on board, what new dimension will English open up for your life, embracing all its diversity and creativity?
Yeah, think about that. And maybe pick just one thing we talked about today, a new phrase, a learning strategy, and try it out this week. See how it feels. You might be surprised.
Instead of just passively rereading your notes, you actively test yourself. Try recalling the information from memory without looking.
Like trying to explain a concept out loud to someone, or even just to yourself without your notes in front of you.
Exactly. That act of actively pulling the memory out strengthens the neural pathways far more effectively than just passive review. The studies you referenced showed really impressive results with this technique.
Okay, so our deep dive into memory and forgetting really reveals that forgetting isn't some kind of failure. It's a normal and often useful part of how our brains work like a filter. Understanding the process, encoding, storage, retrieval, gives you the tools to improve it.
And practices like spaced repetition, using memory aids, prioritizing your health, being present when learning, making emotional connections, and actively testing yourself can make a real, tangible difference.
Your sources and notes really make the case that your memory, with all its quirks and imperfections, is absolutely fundamental to who you are. It shapes your identity, helps you learn, helps you grow.
It really is true. And that leads us to a final, maybe provocative thought based on this deep dive. If, as your sources suggest, our memories aren't perfect recordings but can actually be distorted or even constructed each time we recall them, what does that truly imply about our sense of self?
Ooh, that's a big one. What does it mean if the stories we tell ourselves about our own lives are built on foundations that might not be entirely accurate?
It raises a really profound question about the nature of identity and how much it's shaped by what might be a potentially unreliable narrator our own memory. Definitely something to ponder long after this deep dive is over. Pondering the nature of self. Let's shift gears now and explore something we all seem to seek. Happiness. It feels like something everyone wants, but the sources you provided really show it's maybe more complex than just feeling good all the time or, winning the lottery.
Absolutely. Today's deep dive goal is to really unpack what happiness actually is, delve into the science behind it, both the biological and the psychological factors, and look at what truly contributes to a fulfilling life.
Yeah.
The science of happiness is genuinely fascinating stuff.
It truly is. Where should we start? Maybe with the definition, because your sources suggest happiness isn't just one single thing, right? Researchers often talk about two main types.
Yes, they typically distinguish between hedonic happiness and eudaimonic happiness.
Okay, hedonic happiness being that immediate pleasure or enjoyment, that feeling good in the moment.
Exactly. The good feelings often driven by external stimuli. Eating a delicious meal, having a fun night out with friends, the excitement when your favorite team scores, that first sip of coffee in the morning, those short-term pleasures.
Governed by external things, mostly. And then eudaimonic happiness. What's that?
That's the more profound kind. It's more about finding meaning and purpose in life, about personal growth, contributing to something larger than yourself. It's a deeper, more internal sense of fulfillment.
Like the difference between eating a sugary snack versus a really nourishing meal. Both might feel good initially, but only one provides lasting sustenance, right?
That's a great analogy, and the research consistently backs this up. Eudaimonic happiness is much more strongly associated with long-term well-being. Better mental and physical health, stronger relationships, all the markers of a genuinely well-lived life.
So it's like having a strong internal foundation for your well-being. Now let's get into the biology. Your sources emphasize that our bodies and brains are directly involved in this whole happiness equation.
Oh, absolutely. They are like miniature chemistry labs, constantly influencing our mood. They produce neurotransmitters and hormones that play a huge role.
The chemicals behind the feelings.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a few key players your sources mentioned. Dopamine, for instance.
Ah, yes, the reward chemical. It's crucial in the brain's reward system. It gets released when we achieve a goal or experience pleasure, giving us that feeling of satisfaction and motivation.
Like when you finally finish a big project or eat something really delicious or maybe hit a personal best at the gym.
Exactly. And interestingly, your sources noted that sometimes the anticipation of a reward can be even more powerful, release more dopamine than the reward itself.
Really? Like planning a vacation can generate more of that happy buzz than actually being on the trip sometimes.
It seems the journey can be just as rewarding, chemically speaking, as the destination. Okay, next up, serotonin.
Often called the mood stabilizer, right?
Yes, it plays a vital role in regulating mood, sleep, appetite, and even social behavior. Low levels are pretty strongly linked to conditions like depression and anxiety.
But the good news is, your sources highlighted several natural ways to potentially boost serotonin levels.
Definitely. Things like regular exercise, spending time outdoors in sunlight, connecting with loved ones, and practicing gratitude. It shows that lifestyle choices play a significant role alongside any potential medication.
And oxytocin, sometimes called the love hormone or bonding hormone.
Right. It's released during physical touch, like hugging, social bonding, and even acts of kindness. It fosters feelings of trust, connection, and belonging.
That warm, fuzzy feeling you get after a good hug or when you do something nice for someone else.
It powerfully reinforces just how fundamental human relationships are for our overall happiness.
Were there any other chemical contributors mentioned?
Endorphins, basically the body's natural painkillers and mood boosters, they're responsible for the famous runner's high released during physical exertion, but also during experiences of pain and, interestingly, laughter.
So a good hearty laugh really is good for you, chemically speaking, thanks to endorphins.
It seems so. Your body is actively working behind the scenes to contribute to your sense of happiness through this really complex chemical system. Okay, moving to the psychological side, your sources explored various frameworks for understanding well-being.
One that really stood out was the PERMA model.
Yeah, that's a popular one. It's an acronym for 5 core elements of well-being. P is for positive emotions. Experiencing joy, hope, gratitude, contentment, those good feelings. E is for engagement, being fully absorbed in activities, getting in that flow state.
Where you kind of lose track of time because you're so focused and enjoying what you're doing.
Exactly. R is for relationships, nurturing strong, positive connections with loved ones, spending quality time together. M is for meaning, having a sense of purpose, feeling like you're part of something bigger than yourself.
Finding your why. And A is for accomplishment. Achieving goals, feeling competent, experiencing success and mastery in areas that matter to you.
And your sources suggest that while all 5 elements are important, research indicates that meaning and engagement might be particularly strong predictors of overall life satisfaction.
Interesting. So it's not just about feeling good moment to moment, but about feeling like your life has purpose and that you're actively involved in it, living a full, engaged life. This kind of leads to that fascinating concept of the hedonic treadmill.
Ah, yes, the hedonic treadmill. It's the tendency we humans have to adapt to life events, both positive and negative, and eventually return to a relatively stable baseline level of happiness over time.
So the initial thrill of winning the lottery fades eventually, and you kind of revert back to your usual happiness level?
Pretty much. And similarly, the devastation after a significant negative event usually lessens over time, and people tend to adapt and move back towards their baseline. Your happiness set point seems to reset.
Does that mean we're just stuck at whatever our baseline is? That sounds a bit deterministic.
Not entirely. While you can't completely escape the treadmill effect, your sources suggest you can influence the speed and extent of adaptation. Practices like gratitude and mindfulness can help you savor positive experiences longer and appreciate what you have now, effectively slowing down that treadmill effect.
So focusing more on the present moment rather than just constantly chasing the next thing.
Exactly. And also, pursuing intrinsic goals, activities that are inherently rewarding in themselves, rather than solely focused on external outcomes like money or status, tends to lead to more lasting satisfaction.
Finding joy in the process itself, not just the end result, which ties nicely into the happiness set point concept your sources also discussed.
Right. This theory suggests that your baseline level of happiness is partly determined by your genes. The estimate cited was around 50%. Some people are simply genetically predisposed to have a higher or lower baseline.
Okay, so about half is genetic. What about the other half?
Well, external circumstances, things like wealth, health, relationships where you live, are estimated to account for only about 10% of the variation in happiness levels.
Only 10%. Wow. So genes and circumstances together make up about 60%.
Correct. And here's the truly empowering insight that came through strongly in your sources. The remaining 40% is significantly influenced by your intentional activities and choices, things you actively choose to do and think.
Wow. Almost half is potentially within our direct control. That's huge.
It's a really encouraging idea, isn't it? It means we have significant agency in cultivating our own well-being, regardless of our genetic predispositions or external circumstances.
So what are some of these evidence-based intentional activities that your sources recommend to boost that 40%?
Well, gratitude, as we mentioned, is a really powerful one. Consciously making an effort to appreciate the good things in your life, even the small ones, can have a big impact. Journaling or daily reflection helps. Engaging in meaningful activities is another.
Pursuing hobbies, volunteering for a cause you care about, doing work that aligns with your values.
Finding that sense of purpose and living in alignment with it. Nurturing relationships is absolutely essential. Spending quality time, expressing appreciation, being there for people. Prioritizing physical health, regular exercise, healthy diet, sufficient sleep, because our minds and bodies are so deeply interconnected.
Contributing to both mental and physical well-being.
Practicing mindfulness and meditation can be fantastic for cultivating presence, managing stress, and regulating emotions. And cultivating a positive mindset, specifically what's called a growth mindset. The belief in your ability to learn, grow, and improve through effort makes a huge difference.
Seeing challenges and setbacks not as failures, but as opportunities to learn and get stronger. Were there things the sources suggested we should try to avoid?
Yes, a few key ones. Excessive materialism. Constantly striving for more possessions or comparing what you have to others tends to lead to dissatisfaction and a feeling of never having enough. Focusing on what truly matters is key.
Trying to avoid that consumerist trap.
And social comparison, particularly the kind fueled by social media. It's often cited as a major happiness killer. It's so easy to get caught up in comparing your reality to someone else's curated highlight reel and feel inadequate or envious. Being mindful of social media use, maybe taking breaks, can help.
And spending too much time indoors. The research cited shows that spending time in nature can reduce stress, improve mood, and even boost creativity. So get outside more often.
Other happiness boosters mentioned in your sources included acts of kindness. Doing something nice for someone else, even a small gesture, has this amazing ripple effect, boosting the happiness of both the recipient and yourself. And setting and achieving meaningful goals, which provides a sense of direction, progress, and accomplishment.
So this whole deep dive really highlights that happiness isn't some magical destination you arrive at. It's more like an ongoing journey, an ongoing practice. It's influenced by our biology, our psychology, and crucially, the choices we make every day. We can't control everything, but we have significant power over many things that cultivate it.
Yeah, your sources even noted this was an enlightened conversation in the material. It truly is empowering to realize we have that agency, that 40% to work with.
Which leads us to a final provocative thought on happiness. Given that it's an ongoing journey, and not just about reaching some fixed state, and knowing that 40% is influenced by intentional activities, how can you shift your focus to actively integrate the pursuit of happiness itself into your daily life in a meaningful way, rather than fixating solely on achieving the outcome of being happy? Something to reflect on, perhaps. Reflecting on how we live our lives. Let's turn now to another system that profoundly shapes us: education. Today we're tackling a pretty big question that, frankly, a lot of people are thinking about. Is traditional education becoming obsolete?
It's a really timely topic, absolutely. And the sources you provided offer a lot to unpack different perspectives, key arguments for and against. Our goal here is to extract the most important takeaways and try to understand what this potential evolution means for how we all learn today and in the future.
The material certainly highlights a system under significant pressure, doesn't it?